Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I will be providing a brief discussion about my January reading review for the YouTube channel. I don't normally do reading reviews. I should preface that, but I haven't done them before. I've had people ask about them, and I know other channels like Brian Lee Durfee and a few other authors do reading reviews for the month. I think Mike from Mike's Book Reviews does it as well. It's just not something I've done, partially because I review almost every single book I read. Like I read 142 books in 2023, and I believe have a video review for 140 of the 142. So there's almost always a review. So I've always felt like I don't need to do a reading review video like some reviewers. And also, I've just felt like if I have so many slots, why make up a slot for the reading review when I can do it for other things? But I've realized I've gotten generally way ahead on producing videos, and so I read a book in January, the review doesn't go up till sometime in February. I read a book in February, it doesn't go up till March. So what I'm going to do with the reading reviews is try to upload for instance, for January, I'm going to upload it towards the beginning of February so that you can see what I read in January, and then you'll get all of the book reviews for that month afterwards, probably. So I'm going to talk about the books I read in January. I read 11 books in January, which is a pretty average number, a little bit larger than normal. Usually it's 8 to 10, and then sometimes I do 11, 12, or 13 if it's like a higher reading month. And for like January, I usually get a lot in because of the first week of January I have off because I'm a teacher, and then also just other things. I usually am able to read a lot. However, several of these books, actually, I'm going to count it real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these books I would categorize as tomes because they're 500 pages or longer. And so because of that, I have like a lot. I usually do one tome a month, maybe two, but yeah, I have like 5 here this month. So I did in terms of page count. I need to check what my actual page count was. It must have been closer to 5 or 6,000 because not 5 or 6,000, maybe about 4 or 5,000, but still, it's a huge page count. So rather than go through what I read chronologically, I'm going to start with what from my lowest rated book and go up to the highest, what I would categorize as the highest rated book of the month. So I'll talk briefly about each book and what I thought of them. It was a generally good month. I have one book that I gave a 2-star out of 5, and then I have one book that I gave a 3-star out of 5. But the rest of the books in the bunch are 4 or 5 stars. So that's a very, very good reading month for me, at least. So let's start with the 2-star book. The 2-star book, sadly, was Red Sister. I'll have a full review on the channel for this if you're interested, but I didn't love this one. I also have a 3-star book that I read, which was The Art of the Impossible, which I actually did not have on my TBR. I had another Star Trek book on the TBR. I actually kicked it off last minute and read this because I was invited to do a Star Trek podcast where they're going to talk about this book, and I'll be sharing that link once it publishes. But I read this book, and it was an okay book. I didn't love it, but it was okay. Next, I have Ben Bova's Mars sequel titled Return to Mars. I enjoyed this one a lot. It's nowhere near as good as the first Mars book, and also I think it makes a few big problems, but I still really enjoyed it. So this one is one of the books that I gave like a low 4 out of 5. Really enjoyable, but not amazing. I also read a new novel, a solo debut is what we call it, from a new author it's her first novel she's writing by herself that is traditionally published, and that's Marissa Wolf's Beyond Enemies, and I really enjoyed this one. Again, had a few problems. I gave it my more detailed rating is 7 out of 10, but that's enough to bump it up to a 4 out of 5 on Goodreads for me. So I enjoyed this book. I also have the book Sheep Farmer's Daughter from the Deed of Paxenarian that I really enjoyed reading this one. Not what I expected. it's a hard military fantasy. There are a few fantastical elements, but there's a hard military fantasy. But I enjoyed this one. And now we're getting into the ones I really enjoyed. The top of my 4-star going into my 5-star reads. I read Mission to Metheny by Les Johnson. Terrific. Hard SF book with a little bit of space opera in there. Terrific book. And I also read Larry Correia's Monster Hunter International. This was the first book I read this year, and I really enjoyed this book. Boy, was this a fun romp of a book. It's a long book, and I was afraid it would be bloated. It's not. It's an enjoyable, fun adventure through and through, and I really enjoyed it. I also reread one book this month, which I really don't do rereads often, but in anticipation of Dune, I reread Dune this month. It was supposed to be on my February TBR, but I got a little head start because I was so excited, and I really enjoyed this book. And so next, I'm actually going to talk about a pair of books because they go together, and that is Insurgent and Allegiant. I wasn't supposed to read these until February and March, and then I got ahead in my reading in January, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and read them. So I read Insurgent and Allegiant, and I really enjoyed them. I think Insurgent is a little bit better of a book, but I really loved it, and I think Allegiant is also an excellent, excellent book. So I really enjoyed those two. However, the book I would say is book of the month is kind of a toss-up between Insurgent and another book, which is Halo: The Fall of Reach. I don't know. Right now, I'm inclined to give it to Halo, but I think Insurgent is neck and neck with it. But Halo: The Fall of Reach is the last book I'll talk about. This is the first Halo novel, and I loved this book. I loved it. I absolutely had a blast with it. Makes me excited to read more Halo novels, makes me excited for the Halo universe, and makes me think maybe I should play the games. So those are the 11 novels that I read this month. 1 2-star, 1 3-star. I think I had 5 4-star books, and then 4 5-star books. So a really, really solid month of reading. So if you've read any of these books that I read in January, let me know your thoughts on them. And if you read books in January, let me know what you were able to get through so we can have a conversation about them. But until next time, I am Jonathan, and thank you for watching.